forest floor cradled me like a mossy hammock, the lullaby of the wind rustling the canopy the only music I needed. It wasn't supposed to go this way. A solo camping trip, a chance to reconnect with nature, to escape the cacophony of city life. Now, huddled beneath a precariously balanced rock overhang, the silence pressed down on me like a physical weight. It had started innocently enough. Pitching my tent beside a gurgling stream, sunlight dappling through the leaves. The air, crisp and alive with the scent of pine, filled my lungs like a heady elixir. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long skeletal shadows, the woods transformed. The rustling leaves became whispers, the snapping twigs, accusatory cracks. My unease deepened with the encroaching darkness. Every rustle, every hoot of an owl sent my heart hammering against my ribs. Then it came, a low, guttural growl emanating from somewhere deep within the woods. It wasn't the familiar bark of a coyote or the growl of a distant bear. This was something else, something primal, something that sent shivers down my spine and made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Panic, icy and suffocating, threatened to consume me. I fumbled for my flashlight, its beam a feeble lance against the inky blackness. Every rustle of leaves, every flicker of shadow became a monstrous form in my mind's eye. I stumbled back, tripping over gnarled roots, until I found myself at the foot of the rock overhang, its rough surface offering a semblance of shelter. Huddled beneath the rock, I hugged my knees to my chest, trying to quell the tremors that racked my body. Time lost all meaning. Minutes bled into hours, the growls coming closer, punctuated by the unsettling crack of breaking branches. My mind conjured horrors in the darkness, every rustle of leaves morphing into monstrous shapes, every snapping twig a predator closing in. Then, as suddenly as it began, the growling stopped. The forest held its breath, the silence so profound it pressed against my eardrums like a physical force. I dared not move, not breathe, fearing to break the fragile truce. Slowly, the first tendrils of dawn crept through the trees, painting the sky in soft hues of pink and orange. With each passing moment, the shadows retreated, the forest revealing itself in the harsh light of day. Emerging from my shelter, I found no sign of the creature that had haunted my night. The ground showed no fresh tracks, the air held no lingering scent. It was as if the entire ordeal had been a figment of my terror-stricken imagination. But the memory of the growls, the bone-deep fear, lingered, a chilling reminder of the night the woods turned predator. I packed up my camp, my movements jerky and uncoordinated. The once inviting symphony of the forest now sounded discordant, every chirp and rustle a potential menace. I made my way back to the familiar world of pavement and streetlights, my heart heavy with the knowledge that some secrets are best left undisturbed in the heart of the woods. As I drove away, the rearview mirror reflecting the diminishing figure of the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, something unseen, something waiting for my return. The woods, once a refuge, now a chilling reminder that nature is not always benevolent, and that sometimes the darkness whispers secrets best left unheard. I had always loved camping, but after that night, I swore to never set foot in a forest again. It was supposed to be a fun trip with my friends, but it turned into a nightmare that still haunts me. We had set up our tents near a clearing, surrounded by tall trees and a small stream. The sun was setting, and we decided to light a fire and roast some marshmallows. We were laughing and telling stories when we heard a loud thud from the woods. We thought it was an animal, maybe a deer or a bear, and we grabbed our flashlights to investigate. We followed the sound, shining our lights on the dark shapes of the trees. We saw nothing until we reached a large oak tree with a deep hole in its trunk. Inside the hole, we saw something that made our blood run cold. It was a human skull covered in dirt and moss, with empty eye sockets staring back at us. We screamed and ran back to our campsite, hoping it was just a prank or a coincidence. But when we got there, we found another horror waiting for us. Our tents were torn apart, our belongings were scattered everywhere, and our fire was extinguished. And on the ground, written in blood, was a single word: leave. We didn't need to be told twice. We grabbed whatever we could and ran to our car, which was parked a few miles away. We drove as fast as we could, not looking back. We didn't stop until we reached the nearest town, where we checked into a motel and tried to calm down. We never found out who or what was behind that skull and that message. We never went back to that forest, and we never spoke of that night again. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still see those empty eye sockets, and I can hear a voice whispering in my ear, "Leave." The Blackwood Forest, its name a barbed lullaby of forgotten secrets, had swallowed us whole. We, two seasoned photographers, hungry for shadows and legends, stood dwarfed by ancient oaks that clawed at the twilight sky. Our tent, a flimsy cocoon against the unseen, pulsed with the frantic rhythm of my pounding heart. Dusk had painted the leaves a bruised purple when we ventured deeper, cameras thirsting for the forest's whispers. A crumbling stone circle, cloaked in moss and an unsettling stillness, stood as a sentinel to forgotten rituals. As I clicked the shutter, a fleeting flicker materialized in the frame. Pale faces like drowned ghosts pressed against the edge of vision, eyes glittering like malevolent fireflies. Nightfall turned the whispers into a crescendo. Disembodied voices, swirling around our tent like wraiths, wove chilling tales of ancient sacrifices and forgotten gods. Sleep became a battlefield of nightmares, visions of blood-soaked altars and guttural chants gnawing at the edges of my sanity. In the dead of night, I woke to a low chanting rising from the depths of the forest, each syllable vibrating in my bones. Dragging myself from the suffocating tent, I followed the spectral chorus, drawn by a perverse curiosity and a sliver of desperate hope. The chanting led me deeper into the heart of the Blackwood, the gnarled oaks twisting into grotesque sentinels in the moonlight. And then I saw them. Cloaked figures shrouded in darkness danced around the same moss-covered stones, their chanting a guttural invocation to some nameless entity. As I stumbled closer, drawn by a morbid fascination, a figure detached from the circle, its pale eyes pinning me to the spot. A skeletal hand reached out, its touch colder than death, and whispered a single word. "Trespasser." Terror coiled in my throat, constricting every breath. My camera, once a shield against the unknown, felt like a pebble against a tidal wave. But then, amidst the chanting, I noticed something. A flicker of doubt in the dancer's eyes, a fleeting glimpse of fear beneath the pale facade. They weren't just worshippers. They were prisoners, trapped in this unholy ceremony by an unseen force. This realization sparked a defiant ember within me. I raised my camera, not as a shield, but as a torch, its flash searing through the darkness. The chanting faltered, the figures startled, their forms shifting and blurring in the chaotic light. And then, it happened. The forest itself seemed to scream. The wind whipped into a frenzy, tearing leaves from the ancient oaks and swirling them into a dark maelstrom. The stone circle pulsed with an unearthly light, and the ground trembled beneath my feet. From the heart of the storm, a voice erupted, a guttural roar that shattered the night and ripped through my soul. It was then I saw it, a monstrous form woven from shadow and fear, rising from the depths of the circle. Its eyes, twin infernos, locked onto mine, promising an eternity of torment. Panic choked me, but my legs moved on their own, propelling me back towards the tent, the roar of the forest god echoing in my wake. I don't remember how I made it back. Dawn found me huddled in the tent, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane, the echoes of the night clinging to my mind like cobwebs. We fled the Blackwood Forest that morning, cameras abandoned, memories seared into our souls. We never spoke of what we saw, of the chanting figures or the forest god's wrath. But the whispers, chilling and ancient, still linger in the corners of our minds, a haunting reminder of the price paid for peering into the heart of darkness. And sometimes on quiet nights, under the pale sheen of moonlight, I swear I hear them again, the echoes of the hollows whispering their secrets on the wind. A chilling symphony that begs the question, are we the trespassers, or are we simply pawns in a game played by ancient gods? The answer, I fear, lies buried deep within the shadows of the Blackwood Forest, waiting to be unearthed by the next foolish soul who dares to listen.